Hey guys, so you wanted to see a blending tutorial on shimmers, so that's what we're gonna do today. It's gonna be pretty quick because it is more simple than it seems, and I will go into more the depth in the colors video. Okay, so the first thing is obviously eye primer, like we talked about in my blending video. I did put a little bit of the Dominique Cosmetics eye primer on, but it seems to kind of have like disappeared a little bit while I was doing my makeup. So I'm gonna apply just a little bit more. Okay, so we obviously want to talk about formulas because if you have a very soft pressed shimmer, for instance, this Dior highlighting palette, this is a beautiful color that I've always meant to use as a eyeshadow and I never have. How did that survive? Oh my God. Okay, pressing that little guy back in there. I'm just gonna hold this. Anyway, so you can kind of see, hopefully, that the bottom two are a little bit more like soft. So the pearl in it is very soft, it's small, and you can see the top two are a little bit thicker. Can you see that? It looks a little bit more like chunky. So there's gonna be a lot more reflect, a lot more glitter, which also means that there's gonna be like larger particles, larger like pearl. So when you're blending, those are gonna kind of go, you know? The smaller it is, the more fine it is, the more it'll like stick, especially if you have a primer. If you're using a super foiled shadow, for instance, this is the palette that Gabby gave me. This is the Red Dragon Odin's Eye palette, their collaboration with Judy. If you're using something like this, which is very foiled, you know, like incredibly foiled, very, very, you know, there's like quite a bit of moisture in there. The pearl is quite large. So if you're picking it up, especially on a brush, it's gonna be really hard to blend. But I'm gonna show you how to do it. We're gonna be using one of those shades probably. So obviously I put down my eye primer. Now the point of an eye primer is to, yes, help you blend, but also to hold that pigment. If you're using a shimmer shadow, it's gonna be pretty heavy. And to blend it, the trick is to use a translucent powder. So I'm going to use, actually, I'm gonna use this new, or relatively new Makeup Forever powder, HD powder, which is just very sheer, very finely milled. I'm gonna use the E45 Max blender from Sigma. I do the same thing every single time. I pick up, tap off, pick up, tap off. So I want to place this powder in all of the areas that I either want to blend, where I want there to be a soft blend, or where I just don't want like the moisture of my skin to hold the pigment. So I'm going to start out here and then kind of buff it around this area because I want the majority of the pigment to be on the lid and I want to be able to buff and blend into like this area. I'm gonna pretty much load up that powder in the inner part, so right in here, because I tend to get little like speckles in here, and that can just like really ruin your time, you know? And then I already set underneath my eyes, but I wanna make sure that there's a decent amount of powder around here so that I can blend into my skin and also so that it won't stick. So you wanna put that wherever you're gonna blend or wherever you want, you know, it not to go. A lot of people do this with baking. You don't have to do that. If you don't want to put like a ton of powder down, you can just do this method. All right, I'm also going to place that powder around my face because that stuff moves. I'm gonna use my Wayne Goss, can't remember what this is called, perfecting brush or something along those lines. Pick up that powder and I'm going to dust that in all of the areas where I tend to get fallout. So rather than baking, I'm just kind of like building up a loose amount of this powder around my face, so especially around my nose, around my cheeks. Sometimes I get little particles that like fall down here. And then just to be safe, I'm gonna go up here, just because you never know. Basically, I just don't want any part of my face to be like moist, because it will hold on to that stuff. All right, now there are a couple ways to do this. You can start off with a blending brush and place it in the crease if you are gonna be using multiple shades. One of the ways that I really like to do it is to pack that color on the lid first. So I'm going to grab this shade from the Odin's Eye palette. This is Overheat. this color. So this is very foiled. So what I'm gonna start off by doing is, I'm gonna use my finger, my ring finger. I'm gonna pick that up and I'm going to press that all over the lid to start. So this is actually, when I was working with Pat McGrath, this is the technique that I would use when I did like a single shimmer shadow everywhere. This isn't quite as pigmented as I was expecting. I actually wanted something a little bit more pigmented than that. So I'm gonna go into amber now. And this is what I'm gonna start blending with. If I was just gonna use one shade, basically what I would do is pack it on the lid and then I would pick up a blending brush and do the next step and just kind of buff it out. So that's what we're gonna do now, but with this shade. I like to use something that's gonna be a little bit smaller. This is a really nice blending brush from Refer. This is the number 13 brush. It's small. It's like a little bit more dense than like some fluffy brushes. But it's still super soft, so it's good for blending. So what I'm gonna do is tap into amber, coating it like back and forth. And I'm gonna do my like tapping trick. So I pick up a ton of pigment and then over a paper towel, I just really tap it off because you're gonna have like little particles falling off. And then I'm gonna tap back into it. And this is how you get a really soft, but also even application without going in with way too much. So I'm really working it down into those bristles. And then once again, tapping it off. You can also pat it onto a paper towel. And what I do when I'm working with a matte shadow, I will keep my hand back like pretty far and do really light motions. When I work with a shimmer, I'm pushing a lot harder. I'm really kind of like buffing it into the skin with really, really, really short circular motions. And then once that pigment and those particles are down for the most part, I can start using a slightly lighter hand and just really lightly buff that shimmer out so that I get just kind of like a nice spray of the pearl. And then obviously it's best always with all eyeshadow to go in with a very, very small amount and build it up slowly, but especially when you're doing this kind of thing. Okay, and then obviously like the more you build it up, you're gonna get more and more foil, but I would suggest starting off with this, and then you can kind of like build it up really slowly. For the lower lash line, it's gonna be the exact same thing that you do with your upper lash line, a combo. So I'm using the Refer 02 brush, which is this flat brush, and I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm picking up amber, and I'm really working it into the bristles, tapping it off. And then for my lower lash line, I like to pat first, once again, so that we're placing down that shimmer. And then once it's down, the cat is literally like attacking the door. Stop, just wait a second. Then once it's down, then I start doing this, but I'm not like willy-nilly going like this. I'm like really, really keeping it close to the skin and buffing slowly and precisely. You can probably see I've got, I don't know if you can see, but I've got little glittery specks that have fallen on my face. Luckily we put down that powder, so I'm gonna be able to dust that away. I'm going back in with Overheat, same brush, really tapping it off and just buffing like underneath. Why is she being so loud? We're just going for glitter today. All right, I'm gonna build up just a little bit more definition in my crease by picking up amber once again on that brush, like working it into the bristles, really tapping it off and kind of just pressing and then buffing. It's very similar to working with mattes. It's just, you have to be a lot more delicate. Another trick is to spritz your brush with like a setting spray. But if you do that, you have to be very careful that you're only doing a fine misting of that. The reason for that is the setting spray will help the shimmer kind of like stay down, stay put, but it can also end up making it look really patchy if you go in with way too much. I'm gonna go back in with my Wayne Goss brush and I'm just going to dust away really lightly, holding the brush back really far. Dust away any particles. If you kind of like hold your brush like this and use the top of the bristles and go like that really gently, you can kind of like pick them up if they're not dusting away. Boo, please. You're gonna be fine. Then I want to go in and set with a setting. There's one right here. Set with a setting spray. I'm gonna use Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. Come on, you little bugger. Going in with a setting spray is gonna keep all of this shimmer in place. Just make sure that you keep your eyes closed while it dries. Otherwise you're gonna get like a ton of creasing. But this will make sure that all those little particles don't, you can hear my this flapping around. All those little particles don't like disappear while you're like blinking and talking and stuff. It also helps to kind of like set whatever, like if you went in with a little bit too much powder on your face, it helps to like bring a little bit of life back. All right guys, so this is the finished eye look. Obviously very soft. Obviously the deeper and darker you make it, it's gonna be a little more difficult, a little more complicated. But if you follow these steps, you should be able to figure it out. And if you have any like reservations, do your eyes before you do your base. All right guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will definitely be doing a how to blend colors because I know a lot of you were like, my colors get muddy. So yeah, I'll do that. And that'll be really helpful for like if you're doing something more intense with shimmers. All right guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. I'm so hungry, I'm gonna go to dinner now.